I'm Diego Cordovez with Adam Schoenfeld. Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Now, the World Series of Poker is getting underway, but if our civil liberties continue to erode and the government ends poker, online and offline, then we'll all be in trouble. But the Poker Players Alliance is out there working on our behalf, and we've got John Pappas, the head of it, joining us today and explaining what's going on.
You know, there's nothing I hate more than politics and politicians, and I don't involve myself with it at all, but this is something that we need to do. So I am a dues-paying member of the PPA, as I know you are. This is the only...
Very, very rare for me to
I don't
check
pay,
like that.
Certainly for political organization, but this is a necessity, and the only organization ending in PA the poker players need concern themselves with.
These guys have really had an effect on Congress. I mean, their main thrust is lobbying, which I think we'll talk to John about, and little by little, they're growing a mass of Congress people that understand the issues and are on the rational side of this debate. So the PPA will get a website address from John at some point and understand all the issues. So most importantly, we've got three presidential candidates still viable. From the poker player standpoint, how do they stack up, and what would be the impact of any of the three candidates winning the presidency this November?
Sure. Well, we don't have all the candidates pinned down on their position specific to poker. I can tell you this, though. All three candidates are going to be better than our current administration in regards to the rights
Everything.
Certainly that is one opinion, but certainly there is, when it comes to poker, I think, and the ability of Americans to be able to play it online in the comfort of their own home, I think any of the three major candidates right now are going to be much better for us moving forward. With that said, there are some statements made by Hillary Clinton, which were very positive when she was here in Nevada during the primaries, where she said that she believed that this should be an industry that's licensed and regulated. Obama did come around to that position, but after also saying that there are some ills associated with gambling. But it's also important to note that Obama is a renowned poker player.
Right.
He played in his days in the state legislature. Apparently, he's still a player now. So we think he would have a proclivity to accept poker.
At least he understands that poker is a game of skill, which some people are able
which
to
is
appreciate.
still something that we're so busy educating on the Hill. McCain may be a larger challenge for us. As you know, he's closely associated with Senator John Kyle, his junior senator from the state, and Senator John Kyle has been the ardent supporter of pushing a anti-internet gaming platform. Now, we're making some headway with Mr. Kyle as well in recognizing that poker is different. House-banked games versus skill-based games are different, and we're making some headway there. And so all I can say now is that discussions are being made, the PPA is reaching out, and we've got good people talking to the senator.
Can I take a step back? When I talk to people who are not poker players and I tell them I play poker on the internet, they will invariably ask me, well, isn't that illegal? And I don't know how to answer them, John.
They're wrong. It's not illegal. Nothing that happened in 2006, the bill, the UGA, the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act, changed any laws as it relates to gambling for the individual. What the UGA did was tell the banks, hey, you have to stop processing payments to unlawful internet gambling. Now, the rub here is that they never define what unlawful internet gambling is, and there is no clear definition of unlawful internet gambling. Most states have never even contemplated internet gambling in their state laws. There are some states that have, and clearly, if you're playing in those states, you would be breaking a law, like Washington State,
right,
for instance. But then there's different interpretations by even the DOJ. The DOJ, Department of Justice, says all internet gambling is illegal. Congress says, all right, you shouldn't be able to internet gamble unless you're internet gambling on horses or fantasy sports or interstate lotteries online. So there's completely differing opinions. The highest court to rule on this, on the Wire Act, which is the federal gambling statute, is the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and it ruled that the Wire Act only applies to wagering on sporting activities,
right,
not on casino-style games or poker. And they were specifically mentioned. Poker is specifically mentioned is not covered by the Wire Act, even though the DOJ still takes this hardline position. But as a player, to answer your bottom line question, you're no legal threat, depending on which state you live in, that you're going to have the cops, the feds, anyone busting down your door and taking away your computer and seizing your assets for playing online.
But as a player, we depend on the ability to transmit our money in and out of online sites and for the existence of the online sites themselves. So what's the landscape for them? Is it improving or declining right now?
Well, right now it's almost like a status quo, but it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse unless there's some proactive legislation. Unless the poker community can come together and really push on Congress, as the PPA is trying to unite everyone, to push on Congress to do something proactively. We're not good in the state of gray. The state of gray helps no one. People are still playing online. Sites are still able to process payments, but week in, week out, there's going to be ways. There's going to be lessening of your ability to play online. I mean, just recently we had e-passport left the market. Who knows what will be next? And hopefully that's not going to be a trend that continues. And what we'd like to see is have proactive legislation that licenses and regulates this, provides a clarity for everyone, so that everyone feels very secure about putting their money into an account, that they're going to get their payouts in a timely fashion, and all of that.
It seems like the Department of Justice and the U.S. attorneys, and specific U.S. attorneys, just can conduct intimidation campaigns against anyone, by sending letters, demanding information, but it might be different in the Eastern District of New York than it is in the Midwest. Sure. How is that going on?
It's beyond me. That you usually have prosecutors who are trying to make a name for themselves. They see an opportunity to score some sort of political points, and they seize upon it. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, internet gaming has kind of come in that crosshairs. The reality of the matter is I think we've seen very few cases go to trial because the law is not with them. Mm-hmm. The clear case law right now, it's on the side of the poker player. It's on the side of Americans having the ability to play poker online. Now, and the banks shouldn't be, forced to try to stop them. And, so I think that's where we're seeing a problem with, and it's not. I can't put a finger on why, but that would be my guess.
But you brought up e-passport, which emerged in the wake of NetTeller
mm-hmm.
and FirePay getting out of the business, and now suddenly e-passport is out. What was the threat that they were responding to? Who were the players who are intimidating or putting pressure on these sites to really get out of the business, which of course hurts all the players?
Sure. I'm not in a very good position to answer that question. I know that e-passport claim that they're receiving in discussions with people in the U.S. federal government. Beyond that, I don't know. So it's hard for me to say what was the tipping point for them to make that decision.
That's what I mean when I say intimidation campaign, because the Department of Justice or a U.S. attorney just sends letters as if they're in the business of legislating. Making the laws, but they're supposed to enforce the existing laws. John, are you concerned that now during the World Series of Poker, which is a very high-profile event, that some U.S. attorney or the DOJ will go for a grandstand maneuver and arrest someone involved with internet poker or players?
Boy, well, I have no information that would suggest that would happen. I would think that would be a tremendously poor PR move, given the popularity. I mean, you open up USA today, what's in there? A big section on the World Series of Poker. This is a U.S. phenomenon which has turned into a world phenomenon. I think all the enforcement actions that we've seen on companies and threats that we've seen on companies have focused because some of those companies participated in Sporting Book. I think a direct action against a poker player or a poker site would be viewed very, very poorly in the public eye, and I think
could even backfire.
It could backfire. And certainly, I don't know of anything of that kind happening, and I certainly hope it wouldn't happen. And it would really, I think, put a damper on the real celebratory mood that is the World Series.
I like to fearmonger and spread panic, so you can describe that. Can you tell us a little bit about what the PPA does on a day-to-day basis in Washington and what Senator D'Amato is doing?
Sure, definitely. Well, the Poker Players Alliance, we are doing not only grassroots advocacy around the states, but also every day in Washington, D.C., lobbying on your guys' behalf. Over the last 18 months, for instance, we've had 4 to 5 bills, pro-poker bills, introduced in Congress. That includes 2 bills by Barney Frank. Mr. Wexler has a bill. and Shelley Berkeley has her study bill. Now, combined, looking at those bills, it's well over 100 different members of Congress who've signed on to those varying bills, which is a position that we were never in before. And that didn't just happen out of the goodness of people's heart. That happened because the PPA has been on the ground in Washington, D.C. for the last several years, kind of laying the groundwork for support for internet gaming, specifically support for poker. And so that's kind of just some of the evidence of what we're doing. We have a team of lobbyists in Washington. We spend considerable money on those lobbying efforts. That's why we rely on the help of our membership to contribute and become dues-paying members. So that is one thing. Senator D'Amato serves not only as the chairman of the PPA, but also as our chief lobbyist and strategist. He goes to the Hill regularly, meets with senators. As I was speaking before about our conversations with Senator Kyle, that's something that Senator D'Amato, is former Republican senator, has a good relationship with Senator Kyle. He was able to open the door to us to have him go in and talk to Senator Kyle about the differences between poker and other forms of gaming and why poker should be viewed at differently. So this is he's providing immense asset and access to us as an organization.
You've done a great job in terms of boosting your membership. You have over 1 million members
We do.
at this point, I think, and so you have many passive poker players who've at least contributed money, which is important. But we all can start with the premise that your typical poker player is generally lazy or indifferent to real ground efforts.
Mm-hmm.
What can poker players do as advocates or in a more active?
Well, I think I don't like to think that by nature poker players are lazy. I think this is whole new to them. Mm-hmm. The last thing a poker player really wants to think about when they sit down to play a game of cards is, if what I'm doing legal, is what I'm doing not legal. They want to think about what's in their hand. So I think it's getting them to understand that there is a threat here, mm-hmm. and that if they act, that threat can be completely diminished. And that's what the PPA is trying to do by collecting everyone's voice, having people be able to send messages to Congress. We're going to host another Washington, D.C. fly-in sometime in early September where people can come to D.C. We'll do a rally there. And one of the most important things I think poker players can do, and they can do it right through our website, go to poker2008.org, poker2008.org. It's a voter registration campaign that we've launched called If You Play, Have a Say. And we believe that everybody who is of eligible age to vote should be registered to vote and become active in this upcoming election, because it's a critical election. Mm-hmm. Every member of Congress is up. We've got a presidential race. If poker players can register to vote en masse and go to the polls, we'll send a real strong signal that this is a constituent that can't be ignored, and that we will have laws going our way. And I guarantee you in 2009, we're going to be in a much better place than we were in 2006, 2007, and even today.
Do Congress people respond to reason, or is it all just votes and money?
Well,
because I'm amazed to hear that any senator or congressperson would actually listen to a rational argument, but I'm encouraged if you tell me that's the case.
They do. They do listen to rational arguments, but they also think about the political soundbite. That's the struggle that we have right now, is that they fear that because they're not hearing enough from poker players, they don't realize that there's a real constituency out there. They just think poker players is this amorphous thing. They don't realize that there's a voting bloc out there. So what they do hear from is, our opponents who will run an ad against them, a 30-second ad. Did you know that Congressman X allows your children to go online to gamble? That's hard for them to get beyond. But once we're able to show them that those kind of ads aren't going to have an effect, because you have a balancing act with 1 million poker players, 10 million poker players who are out there who are going to support candidates who support internet gaming, who support people's freedom to play poker in taverns, bars, etc. Then we're in a good place.
Are we going to run, and this is not facetious, are we and should we run attack ads that say, this congressman's trying to take away your right to play poker?
I would rather be in a position as in this nation stage of our organization is not to be on the attack of our opponents, but rather help our supporters. We have a number of supporters in Congress, and that's really what the PPA is going to be doing between now and election days. We started a PAC. We're raising money for that PAC, the Political Action Committee, that gives us the ability as an organization to contribute to candidates. We're going to help our friends. And maybe in certain instances where we have a real zealot who's against us, we may pick a fight against them. But we're not in a position right now as an organization to be sticking our finger in everybody's eye, because what we want to do is be a positive influence on this, not a negative influence.
I understand.
You have a facility on your site to make it easy for people to write a letter to their congressman or senator, because that's something that everyone can do, and I know those guys count how many letters they get.
Yeah.
That's just
They
standard
do.
procedure.
You know, and we've done a very good job of getting people to write letters. I'll be honest, poker players have been great at that, and we're going to continue to press on that. In fact, I had a meeting with the congressman. It was myself, Annie Duke, when she came out to testify before Congress last November. We're meeting with a congressman from New Jersey, and he told me, he said, the three things I hear about most are Iraq, immigration, and poker. So that's
Fantastic.
good. And he signed on to all three of our bills. So, at that time, there was only three bills. He signed on to all three of them, and we appreciate his support.
Where's your website so people can go and
PokerPlayersAlliance.org.
Okay.
PokerPlayersAlliance.org. All of our tools are there. You can access to register to vote. You can send letters to Congress. You can join the organization for a $20 a year fee. It's the best deal out there. $20 a year, you get some great benefits. You can learn all about that on our website. And we're also offering all this at the World Series of Poker. We have an advocacy booth here where people can come. They can register to vote at our booth. They can send an email right from our booth to their member of Congress. They can join the PPA. They can learn about what we're doing. We encourage people who are watching and that are going to be at the World Series over the next 6 weeks to come visit our booth.
All right, John, thanks for joining us.
Thank
This is
you.
all very important, and
We appreciate
people
the time.
go to PokerPlayerAlliance.org.
Great.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Remember to write us with your suggestions for guests and questions at thescoop@cardplayer.com, and visit us at Cardplayer TV.